Austin. His angle of coming from this is not what I expected, so I wouldn't, prejudge where you think he's going to come from with this. But I'll let you explain what Austin.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Basically, my angle is numbers. I like numbers. I'm going to tell you about some numbers. So if you follow along with me in the document I passed out, we can start by looking at Rhode Island compared to a few other benchmarks. This is super simple stuff. Actually, to back up a little bit, there's a little bit of theory you should know. Essentially, I think, and pretty much every economist in the world agrees with me, when you enact licensing, you're establishing barriers to entry, right? People have to go and pay that cost in order to get the job that they would otherwise.
So I don't think they know you're an economist.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So why don't you explain your background, how you got interested in this, and then maybe.
Absolutely. Okay, yeah, I studied Oxford, now at Brown. I studied econ, and one thing I figured out as I was, doing coursework is everybody in the economics profession disagrees with rules like this. You can look at an Obama White House report from, is it like 2014 or something that's linked in the paper here. You can look at Milton Friedman. No one believes that these sorts of licenses don't have a cost. And so it's very important that the cost is weighed with the benefit. And a really easy example of why licensing in general is bad, I found, was that hairdressing is particularly, has no benefit associated with the license. So that's where I came from this. I think it's a perfect place where right and left, the job analysis, the expectation that we have of what the market's going to do in response to this is unanimous. So I think there's an optimal move to be made here. We can improve lots of people's lives, lower prices, increase employment, and keep savings. Is that good? All right, so I'll walk you through again. So Rhode Island compared to New York and Massachusetts, the UK being the standard. New York and Massachusetts both have lower amounts of licensing requirements. This is, in other words, how many hours do you have to work before you're allowed to even take the test to demonstrate that you are good enough and safe enough at hairdressing to actually cut hair. And interesting fact, per 1,000 workers, New York and Massachusetts have radically higher employment in the hairdressing industry. They also have lower prices in the hairdressing industry, although that's harder to calculate. None of these places, including the UK, which has no licensing whatsoever, have any problem with safety. Right? There is a hypothetical in which hairdressing is dangerous, and that's not something we can discount entirely. The question is rather, why without licensing or with less licensing, is there no change in safety? That means that licensing isn't doing the work of keeping people safe, it's something else. To your point, Representative, it's the people themselves who are thoughtful about keeping others safe and know how to do it. Right? So it's not, in fact, that you had to go through 1,500 hours of training, which is 2 years and $15,000 a year of school. That didn't teach you not to cut someone. You're doing that for other reasons. So we can move on from those numbers. One thing that's not a number, interestingly, last week, the Professional Beauty Association, which is the largest national advocacy group for hairdressers, came out in support of this, which is going to color what testimony, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here, but you hear testimony from hairdressers on the other side today. Keep in mind that the Professional Beauty Association represents the majority of hairdressers, and they actually like this bill. Most hairdressers, as represented by the most factual evidence we have, to have less requirements. It was a bother for them to go through it, and they think they could have done it better. And there's quotes on that. Okay, and then we've just got a whole list of studies, costs, right? You can see that there's double-digit changes in employment, according to economic studies, when you increase regulation. One thing that really bothers me, licensing of barbers reduces the probability of a black individual by working as a barber by 17.3%, right? If that's not bringing some major safety benefit, we're just needlessly hitting minorities for no reason. Prices go up, mobility goes up, all these things. Safety, two things I'll say about that. One is that, as you saw in the table, there's lots of evidence that there's no safety difference. And furthermore, in the UK, where there is no safety issue, where there's no licensing problem, UK advocates for licensing have put together, at great expense, lots of reports to demonstrate why licensing should exist. Fun fact, they have not been able to prove any safety difference. They've thrown all this money into evidence gathering, and they can't show you any reason why licensing is going to make people safer. So like, the argument is specious and anecdotal, and most barbers aren't going to be the ones to make it. I think that's basically all I've got. Do you all have questions?
Any questions of Mr. Rosen? Sure.
So you said most hairdressers, they're okay with this, not having a license required? I imagine they want to box competition out, but they're okay with that?
Yeah, so part of this is a recognition of the national movement, especially with regard to hair braiding. I think the Professional Beauty Association is recognizing that the winds are blowing the other way. There's a second dimension, though, which is that they represent how people actually feel, right? So I don't know how many thousands of people are in the Professional Beauty Association. They come together, they say, well, was it like helpful for us to go through 2 years of training before we could start making money? Oh no, we hated that. I guess we don't like it. No, so there may be a small minority of people who say, yes, I'm willing to go through this enormous roadblock so that I can have higher returns for the rest of my life. But in fact, this is so egregious that even the people on the other side who are benefiting can't be bothered.
Any other questions of Mr. Rosen? Representative Serbo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I admittedly did not read the 28 bill, but I'm looking at your last bullet, that there is no benefit to consumer safety. Now, I go to the hairdressers. They use chemicals, they use bleach, they use peroxide. Frankly, I want someone who knows what they're doing.
Absolutely. All right, sorry.
So how are you going to allow for that person that'll walk out with a head of hair? I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, so there are a number of responses. First of all, remember that the test which you have to take to get a license in either world is exactly the same. So in one world, we're saying, if you pass this test, we think you're safe, and we won't allow you to even take the test until you have your 1,500 hours and 2 years of training. In the other world, the one I'm proposing, you do half that amount of training, and if you can't pass the test, well, I guess you better do some more training. You still have to pass the exact same test. So I think that's one way that we protect people's safety, if you truly believe that licensing is how we do it. But I think I can demonstrate to you that licensing is not the instrument by which we achieve safety. If you look at New York, you look at Massachusetts, you look at the UK, places where there is less licensing, there is no change in safety. That means that there are other things at play holding back the tide of not coming out with a head of hair. I talk about this, there's a subsection in that paper titled Safety, and that is all about that, right? So I think there are a bunch of reasons. One is that hairdressers are like normal people. They're motivated to not hurt their clients. Another is that things like Yelp have a really powerful consumer business incentive, right? Which is if you do poorly, you cut someone's hair badly, or you injure them, God forbid, those people are going to go say a bad thing about you on Yelp, and then you're not going to make money. That's really powerful for business owners. And I mean, it's not really a question of like, is this a persuasive theory? Because these theories work. I can demonstrate to you that without licensing, that's what happens. So there seems to be something at play. Maybe my answer is exactly right, but something is at play. Is that clear?
Representative Solomon.
Can you provide the committee with some of the citations for some of these statistics too?
Yes, absolutely. So
You could do that another time.
yeah, I'll send it to you. There's some hyperlinks.
Okay.
You can go to that.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions, Mr. Rosen? Representative
I just want something clarified here from you. You said you're from Brown?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. My head just exploded. Awesome. I love striking regulations, but when I have a guy from Brown advocating for it, I'm feeling great.
Tony is not going to
Very well presented.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Rosen? Thank you, Justin. Speak.